And then the video over here. Okay.
Okay.
This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us Meredith Hammer. She is running for Cook County Circuit Court Judge. Welcome, Meredith.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Uh, and thank you. Meredith, why run for a circuit court judge? And why run for judge?
Well, I get that question all the time. So, it's a short answer for me. It's about helping people. Right now, what I do is I'm an attorney and I help people navigate the court system. I help so many people each and every day, each and every month. I believe as a judge, I can help more people. Certainly, we get in the Cook County Circuit Court system, which is probably the second largest court system in the country. We get up over about 1 million cases, new cases, each year in the court system. So, me as an individual attorney can only do so much to help people. Like I said, every day, every month. But as a judge, I just believe I can help more people navigate the court system. So one of the reasons I am running for judge and intend on becoming a judge is to really, elevate myself to the next level and be able to help more people, navigate the court system and influence, the court system to be able to help more people get access to justice.
Mhm. And what many people don't understand is that judges do more than just preside over cases. They also do administrative work. Could you describe what administrative work you would be doing?
Sure. So it's case management. It's called judicial case management, right? So we of course have a courtroom, but we have caseload too, right? So we have to be able to manage the caseload effectively, efficiently. Like I said, so many cases come through the circuit court, Cook County Circuit Court each year. I, in fact, was, on a court call today, um, commercial litigation, right, which is part of the area of law that I practice in. There were probably 46 different individual attorneys on the call, each one of them handling probably more than one case. So, with one judge, right? So the judge has to be able to, manage his court call effectively and move the cases along. So that's part of what I would be doing is, managing my court calls daily, right? And trying to make sure that people get into my courtroom and through the call effectively and efficiently. So I have some ideas around how to make that happen a little bit more efficiently and maybe even more cost effectively.
Mhm. So 46 different attorneys, is that those 46 attorneys are not on one case? There are many cases involved, right?
Absolutely.
And then how does the judge manage? Is the judge just speaking with all the attorneys at the same time and then seeing who is going to be on the docket at what time? What is case
So
management?
so 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 the case, he has a case, a call. We call it a court call. So each case is listed um on the call and he calls them up. Each case has a case number
Uh,
and usually it's a certain way that the number's listed, with the year, the type of case it is, and then a number, right? So it's a long case number, and he just goes down the list. He calls each case up,
mhm.
and the attorneys on the case will state their name and if they're who appearing on behalf of, whether it's the plaintiff or the counsel, and then he has a way of asking questions. Where are we with the status? Depending on what's happened before, and we have to provide the status and then come to some sort of resolution on what's going to happen next, right? So then he will make a decision and then ask either one of the attorneys to issue an order based on his decision for the next call or some sort of resolution to the case. And we will have to provide the order for his signature within the hour. So luckily and fortunately for all of those 46 attorneys on the call today, we were able to appear virtually, right? We didn't have to go in person. There were some attorneys in person who appeared in person, who were there in person. And the judges typically call those attorneys who appear in person first, right? And he just goes through the list, and here's whatever issues are needed to be resolved today. And like I said, an order will be issued for the next time we need to appear.
So the attorneys they don't hear what is happening in the other cases. They're just like switched on when their turn comes on.
Actually, no, we do hear. Oh. so if your case isn't called first, like mine was maybe third or fourth, which was good. But I get to sit there and listen and hear what else goes on. And I can stay on the call afterwards if I want to, but no, you can hear everything that's going on in every case.
It's like a virtual courtroom. It's you're sitting there and then you hear what's going on.
Yeah, sometimes he will create a breakout room for an attorney and maybe opposing counsel to have a discussion, and then they will come back. But it's certainly a virtual courtroom. And it works quite nicely because, again, we don't have to, leave our offices or homes or wherever we may be located. So it can save money, right, and time. And sometimes an attorney may have multiple calls. So I heard one attorney saying they had a call in this court, and they also had another call in another court. So they probably had two computers, and they were waiting to be called up. So that's actually beneficial and provides a cost saving, I think, to clients doing that way virtually as opposed to physically, right, running around the courthouse. Right.
Did this start during the pandemic?
Yes, it did. Well, before the COVID pandemic, we were not appearing virtually. We were certainly appearing in person, which there is some benefit to appearing in person. So it depends. Certainly, if you have a contentious case and you are in person, you have opposing counsel right there, right outside the courtroom. You're seeing each other, and you may be inclined to have conversations, and you may be able to settle your case, to settle the dispute right outside the courtroom. I've done that before when I was appearing in person. I would see, on a couple of different cases, I remember seeing an attorney opposing counsel outside the courtroom, and we actually settled the matter outside the courtroom. By the time the judge called us up, she was happy that we were settling the matter. Everybody wins in that case, in that kind of situation. But since the COVID pandemic, we have had an opportunity to appear virtually. I think it works in a lot of cases, in situations, certainly when you're just coming up, like today, it was a status hearing, right? It's like, what's the status of your case? Provide an update on the status. It was a 5-minute appearance, right? There was really no need for either one of us, opposing counsel and myself, to appear in person. So we were happy to appear virtually and then to go about our business. So certainly since the pandemic, it's been great in my experience to be able to have the option to appear virtually. I think all of the attorneys appreciate it, and the judges too.
When you were in person and then you were able to settle with opposing counsel in person, what about now? You can't do it in person, but while you're waiting, or even before then, usually like before then, you might call each other and see if you could talk everything out. But
yeah, I'm always reminded of that. Like even today, because I hadn't gotten opposing counsel all of the documents he needed. And the judge actually reminded, and the opposing counsel sort of complained about it. And the judge says, well, we're not going to do that in open court. He encouraged us. He said, did you have an opportunity to confer with Attorney Hammer? And he said, well, no, we haven't yet. He says, well, I would encourage you to do that. So I think it is something that we have to be reminded about more, because we're not in person. We're more distant from each other. And there is, there's nothing like, like that physical presence, right? So I think when we were in person, it really sort of lent itself more to, when you're seeing somebody in person, you can see them. It's different. It's just a different thing. And so we were reminded today to actually talk, because when you're not in person, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we just were reminded. I said, oh yeah. I said, hey, attorney, so-and-so, I'll email you. And he said, okay, right. And so we've been corresponding via email back and forth all day long, and had an opportunity to set up a time to actually have a conversation on Thursday. But I think we have to be reminded of that, because we are here virtually and we're just constantly emailing and maybe, maybe not even phone calling, anymore. We're just emailing, putting the cases, uploading them to the system. We have a case management system that we use. So we are very distant from the, up close and in person kind of situations nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Is that the case management system, is it efficient? Does it have any glitches sometimes, or is it sometimes slow?
I don't know that it's slow, but I do think that there may be some more, sort of more, maybe some more workflow that can be added to it to help move things along. And certainly we meaning the judges need to use it more, right? Need to use the system more than just something that you upload documents to, right?
How could you use it more besides using it to upload documents?
Well, I think that there's a workflow, because my background is in computer science and software development, right? And I think that right now the judge's side, there isn't a flow, right? We upload the documents and they pull them down. But I think that based on the law, right, there could be some sort of workflow that could like move the documents to another part of the system, or another, path where the judge could maybe, or even the judge's clerk could manage the documents better. Because like I think I pointed out, I've discussed this before in different settings, there's a difference in the way that the cases are managed here in Illinois versus, particularly with regard to probate, versus the way they're managed in Indiana, where I'm licensed as well to practice, right? And what happens is it's based, the system, it's the same case management system. It's called Odyssey, but the workflow, the back house of the workflow is different for the judges. So it's kind of detailed. When I'm talking about, it's very boring, right? You've never sort of even seen the system, and it's, really sort of abstract, because nobody, on who's listening to me has maybe seen it, except with maybe some attorneys and maybe some judges. But I do know that because I am licensed and I do practice in Indiana, Marion County, Indiana, to be exact, there's a difference in the way that probate cases are handled. And with regard to the case management system and the workflow, and it seems to me it's a lot more efficient, a lot quicker, and cases get through the system just quicker. And I mean, one of the reasons why we in Illinois purchased and developed the Odyssey case management system is to be more efficient. It was the use of the technology, right? So that we could be more efficient. We moved away from paper, right? So we used to be all paper. We used to be all, sometimes there would be loose paper floating around, millions and millions of pieces of paper, right? So it used to be all paper. So now we're technology based, right? And so we can do a lot more with technology than just uploading documents and downloading documents.
Mhm. And by workflow, what do you mean by that?
So you're getting into the details, I think, but it's the way that the work moves throughout the system. So you upload a document, it's processed right in a certain way based on the law, right? And
Okay.
so the document, so even there are certain documents, the way that certain documents or petitions, for example, that in probate would be accepted or not accepted or rejected from the court clerks. Just because you submit a document to the system doesn't mean that it's going to get accepted, right? You have to submit it according to the law, right? There's certain substantively, there's certain information that has to go into the document, right? If it's not there, the court clerk will reject it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay the fee, right? A certain fee, right? Depending on if you're going to submit, like I may file my motion, my appearance, right? It costs $258, right? If I don't, that's by law. That's the code. It costs $258. If I don't pay the $250, then it will get rejected, right? So that's an example of the workflow. But as you get deeper into a particular area of the law, the workflow, the documents flow differently, and may come to the back end of the system for the judges to review.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of sounds like when we upload YouTube videos, there's the details and then something else and then the checks and then publishing visibility. It sounds like that. And then each process has the different questions that you have to
That's
complete.
exactly what it is. It's in my world, it's called workflow. It's the way that the work moves throughout the system. And each person or entity that's using the system has responsibilities and a role.
Mhm.
So, the judges have a role, certainly the clerks, the attorneys, we all have a certain role that we play in things that we can do in the system. And I think that there could be some improvements made to help the work flow more efficiently. And the system could be used maybe a little bit more efficiently to help reduce costs, maybe, and reduce a burden on certain roles. Because again, when you're receiving 1 million cases a year, there's only so much humans can do to manage that efficiently, right? So we certainly are using the system, and it's better than being on paper. I just think we can improve it.
In Indiana, you said that it's more efficient. Is it more efficient? Plus, there are fewer cases as well.
Certainly, there are a lot fewer cases. That's why I said Cook County is probably the second, maybe even the first largest court system in the country, unified court system. In Marion County, Indiana, not so much, but I do think that there are certain things with regard to the system that we can use, certain processes too that we can incorporate into our processes, like probate. I processed or submitted a petition um, to open probate in September, September 25th. Or no, 4 days before that, September 21st. Within 4 days, never having appeared in court, the judge was able to open probate and appoint an executor to that estate. 4 days.
In
I've
Illinois, it
submitted
would be how long then?
at least a month,
Oh my goodness, that's
and
a
I would have to appear in person. And I
hmm.
may not even get it open then. It just depends, because if the judge doesn't pick the case up, the judge probably would have only picked up the case and reviewed the documents. Well, I wouldn't have even submitted them, because here the judges require in probate required the attorneys to appear in person and physically bring in the documents, and then and only then can they look at the documents. So it takes a month. You have to wait a month at least, right, to get into the physical appearance to see the judge, and then and only then are they looking at the documents. And if it's not in order, then you got to go back and fix it, and then come back a month later.
Is there
So that's just totally inefficient.
correct? Is there any reason why they would rather have it that way besides just not updating their technology?
They haven't told me a reason. And I can't, it's not necessarily the law it's just, I think it's just, honestly, I may be telling on myself here, but I just think it's the judge's lack of, and their unwillingness to use the technology properly, and just being, old school, like this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way we're going to do it. I mean, I don't see the difference. I mean, in Indiana, if I'm uploading and I have everything in order, what's the difference? What is the difference between that and here? I mean, the law is generally the same. It's probate, right? You have a certain number of documents and items you have to present, and if it's in order, you're opening probate. You may have a will, you may not have a will. You've got these laws of intestate succession. That means you don't have a will, and the heirs are set up based on those laws. If a parent dies, the children become the heirs at law. And there's a petition. There's a certain number of key facts that you need to identify and list on the document, right? And you submit that to the judge, and he goes, check, yep. Based on the law, we can open probate, and you can become the executor of the estate. Go and do what you do. I don't understand why we can't have a similar process where not only can we upload it in the system, but certainly we don't have to appear in person, right?
Who is there anybody that stands to benefit by having this slower system?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly my clients don't benefit because, it takes longer for their cases to open probate. And, but I don't know that the judges benefit because they got more people in the courtroom, right? And they don't necessarily want more people in the courtroom. I don't know that it's a matter of, one entity benefits. I just think, like I said, it's just maybe the judicial system just being maybe a little outdated, and their unwillingness to use computers, because you do have certain individuals who just aren't computer savvy, are resistant to change, don't want to become computer savvy. I've been told that before, and they're just used to doing things a certain way, right? They don't want to have to print out all the documents. Sometimes it can be a lot of documents. You may have a will, it may be 15 or 20 pages. You've got a petition, if you have many heirs, you could have 3, 4, 5, 7 heirs. Those all have to submit affidavits. So sometimes it's I just don't want to print out all the documents. You got to bring them in and drop them in a box outside their office, right? Or
and the judge is able to just read online instead of printing them out to read. Is it easier to read like a physical copy?
I mean, to me, here's what I would say. We have to submit them online too, right? As well as bringing them in physically. So, I mean, I think that certainly if you have some paper, which I have here, and I can just, look through, I mean, that's easy. And then you look and you can take notes on it if you need to. So that may be easier than if you're looking online, right? And you can't physically take a note. But I don't see any reason why you can't, for efficiency's sake, to where you can't look at it online. There is a better way. I promise you, there's a better way, and I intend on finding it. Certainly for simple estates with few, heirs, I don't see any reason why we can't submit all the documents online I will be happy to review them online as the judge when I get on the bench and issue my orders accordingly and appoint executors in a matter of days, instead of weeks and weeks and weeks, and requiring attorneys to come in. I will be doing that, right? I'm going to talk to my presiding judge, and help them help him understand, him or her understand that this is just a much better way to do it. I think with my background in probate in both these, not only Indiana, but the District of Columbia in Illinois, I'm licensed in all those 3 different jurisdictions. But my background there, my background in technology, my undergrad is in computer science and software development, I think that I can really come up with a strategy and persuade with my persuasive argumentative skills as an attorney, persuade my presiding judge and other judges who practice in probate to do something different that will be more efficient and provide a better, what we call a better access to justice for our litigants, those people who come before us, and possibly save them some money.
Because there are a million cases, new cases every year, right? And then it's much better to have those cases processed rather than having so many people waiting.
Waiting around and waiting to get into court. And because what happens when you're waiting, especially in probate, oftentimes the real estate is the largest asset, as you probably know, in the probate case. So you're waiting, you're not paying the mortgage, you're waiting to open probate, the mortgage becomes due, you're behind the mortgage company starts to file foreclosure proceedings, right? You can't handle that in probate. You got to go to a different court to handle that, chancery. Then while you're waiting, you're in court over in chancery trying to get it out of foreclosure, still having open probate. The house falls with the gutters start to fill up with leaves, and the house starts to fall in disrepair. So then the next thing you know, you're in housing court, right? The housing authority has cited you or the state for not keeping the house maintained, or the lawn cut, right, or the grass cut. So certainly getting the estate opened and pushing it through probate is real. The priority there is paramount to making sure that litigants and heirs, family members, are able to get, access to justice, access to, whatever, there may be insurance claims, there may be an opportunity to sell the real estate, right? And to be able to recoup some fees, or to sell it and get it to get it back on the tax rolls, to get people paying tax. I just think the benefits in the long run are not only for the family, but for the city, wherever it is, the property is, the state, and the county. The benefits are really extend
very
wide. Yeah. I mean, I think the getting these cases, certainly not only in probate, but getting these cases through the system more efficiently is just beneficial to everybody.
What about the real estate taxes? We hear about like real estate tax bills are coming up soon, and if it's still stuck in probate or probate hasn't been open, and those bills are due, then those bills don't get paid too. It's like the mortgage, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes the taxes are rolled into the mortgage, sometimes not, but certainly, if the taxes aren't paid, I mean, the taxes are a little bit less likely for the tax to be assessed, right, with the property that quickly, as not unlike a mortgage where the mortgage company wants to be paid, is supposed to be paid every month, right? Taxes, court, biannually, right? Taxes, so it's not as quick as a mortgage. It won't fall into foreclosure or so property tax default situation as quickly as a mortgage. You would still have some time. Then you have time to redeem. But it's all of that adds up, right? All of it at the mortgage, this repair, the taxes, any kind of insurance, all of that starts to add up. So you want to get the estate open, probate open, you want to get any kind of real estate, you want to certainly handle that and dispose of it as quickly as possible, because it all adds up. It all adds up.
Mm.
I had a case recently where it was brought to me by a friend of this woman whose mom had passed away a year ago. Well, they never opened probate because the woman was sick. So the friend who came to me, she said, well, my friend is sick. Her mom never opened probate. Well, then her friend got sick and she was in hospice. She died herself.
Mm.
So now we not only have the mother who died last year opening probate, but now we've got the daughter who also died, right? So we've got a second estate that, and I just opened probate for the first one. So now I'm turning around having to deal with the second one. But it took 2 months for me to open probate for the first one. It's a lot. I'm just saying. It was a lot for me. But then we've got, like I said, her now the grandkids, and then the kids, the two surviving children from the first estate. So you can see how it starts to get messy and complicated, and why opening probate and getting the cases through the system efficiently is important to the families, for sure.
You know probate so well. It's you've been practicing it probate for how long now?
25 years.
Okay.
25 years. And not only that, but also having, my hands in real estate, in doing real estate transactions, and understanding how that operates, because oftentimes, like I said, the families want to possibly sell the real estate when their family member dies. They want to sell it. Sometimes not, but being able to, having been involved in real estate and real estate transactions, and also mortgage foreclosure cases, so all of that is helpful for my probate clients. Yeah.
Uh, Even though the mortgage company knows that they're waiting on probate, they still have to go ahead with the foreclosure because they need the money and they just have to file the paperwork, right? They know what's happening, or they don't.
As long as you alert them, what they suspect something is happening. Like in this case, the case I was just mentioning, the mom had passed, but they didn't know for many months because the daughter kept paying the mortgage. And then once she passed away, and I got wind of the case, I said, we need to notify the mortgage company, and they never knew that the mom had passed away. But they were fine for, a certain amount of time, because I notified them, formally sent them a letter and told them that we were going to open probate, kept them informed. And once I did open probate, I sent what's called a notice to the creditors. So you have to notify all the creditors when you open probate. That's another thing. By law, the creditors get 6 months to respond to and provide any claims to the estate. The mortgage company, maybe some credit card debt out there. There may be some other debt out there that needs to be, where creditors need to be notified. So yeah, notifying the mortgage company for sure is the first one, and they will sit tight for so long, right? But they certainly have to open up a foreclosure if they're not getting a foreclosure case, if they're not getting answers, or if they don't see any movement, because at a certain point, the bank wants their money, right? Because there was a loan taken out on the property. And then once you appoint an executor to the estate, the executor will have to, if they want to keep the home, they're going to have to get their own mortgage on the property. They're going to have to get refinanced. They just can't take over the mortgage. So there is some processing that has to be done with the mortgage company and the transaction there.
Very intricate.
It's definitely interesting because, remember when the loan was taken out, there were contracts signed. It probably was a 30-year loan, right? And there were contracts signed, and, that's all a part of, the business of mortgage companies. So you're going to have to do something different. So, but mortgage companies understand all of this, and they, have been through it every day, right? But again, they will only wait so long. I had one case 2 or 3 years ago where the client, it's a long story. It was complicated as they tend to be. But once my client took over as the executor, she sat on her hands for many, many months and didn't do anything with the mortgage. And so the mortgage company did file a mortgage foreclosure, and it went on for about a year. Wow. To try to get her to get the mortgage assigned to her and refinance the property. She wanted to sell it, then she changed her mind, then she changed her mind back. So that, it can be, sometimes family members want to hold on to properties for sentimental reasons, but they really can't afford the mortgage, right? Because the executor has to be able to then to go through the financing of getting a mortgage on the property in their name, right? They can't keep it in the deceased's name. They have to get it in their name. And that can be complicated and exhausting. It can be really emotional, right? Especially if it's a family home that they want to keep in the family. But somebody's got to be able to get the mortgage on the property to continue to pay on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it has to go into probate before they could change the name on the deed. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Any real property, when someone dies in Illinois and Indiana for that matter, you can't transfer the name until you go through probate. Mm-hmm. Unless the name on the property, they may be titled on the property with someone else. Like, for example, I may be on the property with my husband, as long as it's titled with both of our names as husband and wife, or as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, then the survivor has rights. And so the survivor just files an affidavit with the county recorder's office and a death certificate that the person has died and they're the survivor, and then they take title to the property without having to go through probate. But the property has to be titled with both of their names, right? As joint tenants with rights of survivorship or as husband and wife. The law assumes that husband and wives are joint tenants with rights of survivorship.
Recently, we heard a lot about the ICE cases and judges presiding over those ICE cases. Are those the judges in those courts, are they connected with the circuit court?
I don't know. I think they're probably connected with the federal courts, right? Maybe. I don't know any judges who may have presided over them. I think it's federal courts. I think that maybe immigration courts. So those could be related to tangential to the circuit court. But I would not. That is not my area of practice, right? It would probably be immigration law. And I know there are some immigration law attorneys out there who are very well versed on this topic. So I have received requests for help from various people who live in my subcircuit, in fact, who have been who need help because either a family member or a loved one has been detained by ICE. And so I always provide immigration lawyer information so that they can get the help that they need. Someone who is certainly more well versed in the subject matter than I am.
The circuit court covers which areas of law?
There's a lot. So the criminal side for sure, criminal law, family, divorce and family law, child protection services, probate, real estate, and chancery. So you've got these different divisions. And if you go to the clerk of the circuit court, they'll list all of these divisions. So each division may have cover 2 or 3 different areas of the law, right? And sometimes it depends on the dollar amount.
Oh.
They may go up to, they may split it. So maybe in Chancery, we cover, you know, a dollar amount up to $100,000. I'm making this up. I don't remember the specifics of it. But then in civil, there's a division called civil. They may cover, disputes with dollar amounts greater than $100,000. So then you've got civil, you've got county, the county division. County does property tax appeals and property tax. When a home is lost to property taxes, there's this whole process that you have to go through.
PTAP? Because I know that people go to when they appeal their taxes, they go to the assessor's office and then the board of review. And then when that doesn't work, they go to PTAP. I forgot what PTAP stands for. Is that it?
I know it is as counties, the county division. It may be PCAP in the county division. It may be another level be appealing in the board of review. And I think that's what it is. It's like another level. And then it may go through to county, to circuit court. I'll have to look it up and get back to you. I'll have to look it up and get back to you.
Yes. And business law, housing court. Housing court is the city, or is that
no housing is in the civil division. I call it housing court, but it's in the civil division of Cook County. It has a case type. Each one of these different types of areas of law has a case type. Then there's the law division. I was in court this morning in the law division with the case type of L. It was like 2025 L00, whatever, right? So what
is law division then?
So law division handles business disputes. So maybe like you were saying, business law, right? So I was my client, had defaulted on a loan, so the bank was suing them. So it's a commercial business dispute. I've been in law division too when it was business to business. So I guess the bank is a business too, right? So my client had their business and they had defaulted on a loan. So the bank was suing my client. So we have those cases in what's called the law division.
And again, chancery means what?
So chancery handles mortgage foreclosure cases.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
That's the simplest way. But again, there are different case types, or I'm sorry, case amounts that we go up to as well, right? So like I said, if you go to the clerk's website, Clerk and Circuit Court, you've got chancery, you've got civil appeals, you've got county, criminal department, criminal division. It's 2 different case types, 2 different divisions there because they handle different types of cases in criminal. One is like criminal at 26 in California, in the criminal department. I don't do criminal, so I'm not very well versed in that at all. You've got domestic relations, right, which handles family. We call it family court, divorces. You've got the juvenile justice and child protection division. That's a separate court in and of itself. You've got domestic violence court. That's a division. That's separate from domestic relations and divorce. Domestic violence, that's where you can get orders of protection. Because, there's some domestic violence going on. You've got law. We just talked about law a little bit, probate. So those are in circuit court, but then, you have, there's the circuit court downtown at the Daily Center. You know that the circuit court has several different courthouses throughout the county. So you've got the courthouse downtown. You've got 26 in California, which handles that's the criminal, that's where the jail is. And then you've got the different suburban districts, like you've got Skokie, you've got Broadview. So you've got those different kinds of Maywood, Markham, those different courthouses.
So sometimes when you're practicing, you have to appear in those cases where you have to appear in person, you might have to end up in those suburban courthouses too.
It depends on where the case was filed. I've had a client a number of years ago who was evicting, it was eviction court, and the property, it was out in the suburbs, and the case was filed in Markham. So I had to go to the Markham courthouse. And again, that's why we were able to appear. I went to Markham first, and then the judge allowed us to appear on Zoom, and that saved me. That saved me time and certainly time and money, right? Because I didn't have to physically go out to Markham for my appearances. Yeah. So I'm looking at the clerk's website. It says the Chancery Division hears matters of equity which are filed under the following categories: injunctions, class actions, mortgage foreclosures, contract matters, creditors' rights, liens, construction of wills and trusts. So that's the trust side. I mean, if you have a dispute over a trust, receiverships. So if a property falls into foreclosure, or there's a bankruptcy, then there may be a receiver assigned to it. It says dissolution of partnerships and corporations, and statutory and administrative reviews.
That's a lot.
It's a lot in Chancery. That's why I said I don't remember all the areas. I'm typically in Chancery for mortgage foreclosure and maybe some contract disputes, but typically it's mortgage foreclosure. But they call it Chancery.
When you mentioned that you appeared in a lot of the different courtrooms, do you know almost all the judges by now?
No, there are hundreds of judges.
Oh.
There's probably over 500 judges in circuit court. Yeah, there are a lot of them, and we need more. We need more. With over 1 million cases, we need more judges, I think. Soon to be one.
Yes. Good luck. And what about the attorneys? Do you think that you've met almost all the attorneys already in 25 years, or there are still times when you find?
Oh no, new attorneys coming on board every day, every year. So no, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of attorneys, thousands of attorneys. I do sit on the board for the ARDC, the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission, which is our bar, right? So we have to be licensed in the state of Illinois, and we have a bar number, and the bar is called the ARDC. So I sit on the board that hears cases that involve ethics and attorneys, right? So, when an attorney they're doing some wrongdoing, right? A lot of times, like maybe a lot of times it's inadvertent. They may, take their client's money and not dispose of it properly, or they may not appear a number of times on behalf of their client. And so there will be a complaint filed against the attorney, and it will come to the ARDC, and it will get assigned to a panel. And sometimes it may be assigned to me. I sit on a panel of 3 people who will hear those types of cases and then decide if there should be a punishment for that attorney. And oftentimes we will, take the attorney's license away for a number of months or years, and then they have to petition to get it back. So it's ethics complaints against attorneys. So I sit on this board. And so I know, having sat on that board, there are thousands and thousands of attorneys who are licensed in the state of Illinois.
Are there many cases that are filed against attorneys this way?
I don't think there are many cases. There are certainly cases that come up all the time, every year. I have only sat on maybe 10 hearing panels in the last couple of years, so I haven't sat on that. But there are a number of us who sit on the panel. There are probably 50 of us altogether It's only 3 people, so they'll rotate it. It's 3 people at a time. And so I would say, having only sat on 10 in the last couple of years, probably everyone has done that. I wouldn't say there are a lot of cases that come up when you have thousands of attorneys across the state. So I mean, there are a few, and that sometimes attorneys trip themselves up and get into trouble and do things that they're not supposed to do. And that's why that panel, that board is there to, like I said, to issue punishment or maybe to reprimand or to issue, some form of rehabilitation. Like they may need to be rehabilitated. There may be, alcohol and drug abuse involved, and we may have to send them to get some help. Attorneys have, I think it's the first or second largest suicide rates of any profession. It's very stressful being an attorney.
Yeah.
You constantly, have people's lives in your hands, whether it's criminal, could be in probate where you've got family members who are in crisis. When there's disputes, you're helping people to navigate those disputes. So it's a very stressful situation, and you have to get involved. You have to get involved.
What about the judges? Would you think that they have as much stress as the attorneys or more so?
No, they don't have any stress. They don't have to get involved. They sit on the bench and say, yes or no. They call balls and strikes. They just they're the decision makers. They can make the attorneys go out and do what they want them to do, right? No, the judges are the decision makers. So I don't think it's as stressful. I think that if you take, you're a servant, right? I think that if you have practiced as long as I've practiced and you've seen all these different scenarios and you've helped people, you have the confidence, I think you can help people navigate this court system and with less stress than it takes to be an attorney. Now, I do think there are some areas that can be more stressful than others. A friend of mine is a judge in juvenile justice and child protection division. That's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
She's helps young children, and those situations can be dire. They can be ugly. There can be a lot of abuse, and that's stressful to me. To me. But I do know that she handles it well, and she feels good often because she is helping young people. She helps children out. She helps to provide. She helps the families too. A lot of times, the parents may need help themselves. They may be in mental health crisis. So there are resources that she can direct families to, children to help them. But that can be a stressful one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And your petitions, you submitted them. You were what place in line now when you submitted your petitions?
So there were only there's 2 vacancies in my subcircuit. I'm in one of the vacancies. So there are only 2 of us running. So it's a head-to-head match, right? No objections. I consider myself to be the front runner. I'm out front, and it's looking really good. We certainly have time left to do more. I think early voting starts in February. So there's time. I'm still looking for volunteers, right, to help out on the campaign. Yeah.
And when you were getting the signatures, you also went a little bit door to door as well, or did you have help most of the time?
No, I went door to door. It was really a lot. I had volunteers, about 20 people, door to door. We went to a lot of different events. We went to the best response we had were at farmers markets. People are really friendly at farmers markets, and they're very willing to sign petitions. Mm-hmm. And the good thing this year is we started 30 days earlier than we did in past years collecting signatures. So we started I think in August as opposed to September. So we're done. We were done in November. You know, normally in years past, we would go up to Thanksgiving and it would be challenging, right? Because then you go through petition challenges and in the, you know, you will be in Christmas challenging your seniors. Well, we're not doing that. We're done. We're on the ballot. And so we're just waiting for others to get through their challenges. So probably at the beginning of, you know, by January, the ballot will be set and we'll get our ballot number. Yeah.
What when you were going door to door, did most of the people that were signing not understand what you would be doing as a judge, or how hard was it to explain to them what you wanted to do and what your position is?
Well, normally I would not explain in great detail as I would just say generally the area that I practice in, and they understand that generally. And I do think that they, you know, generally understand what judges do. But the biggest comment that I've heard from people while we were getting signatures in the race is that they don't know who the judges are because the judges don't come out and you know and introduce themselves and shake hands, and generally they don't. So a lot of times people are just happy to see a judicial candidate out with her running shoes on and her jeans on, her t-shirt on, asking for a signature to get on the ballot. So, and just telling them who I am and what I do, what I've done. A lot of times people are just happy to meet a candidate running for judge. And as I say, it's extremely important that people know the judges because judges make decisions every day that change people's lives.
So usually judges, once they're sitting on the bench, they don't do much public facing anymore. They're just in the courtroom hearing cases, right? And doing the administrative work.
I think generally, I do think that what we could do more of is connecting more with the community and actually talking about, because we can't practice law, right, on the bench. We can't really speak on any issues that may come before the court. But I think one of the things that we can do is help people understand how to navigate the system, right? And like I said, I can, you know, improve the system, maybe, especially in probate. And I can speak on that. I can speak on like the improvements or help people understand like what to do, when to do it, you know, the best practices, so to speak, before they come to court, right? So I do think we can do more of that. I have seen two or three judges doing that, right? Best practices for self-represented litigants and attorneys, right? Because we do get a lot of self-represented litigants as well
How
in
do
our
they
court
do?
system.
Yeah, how do they do? Are they do they usually are they successful? Do they run how they haven't studied law? There's a lot of stuff that they don't understand, and that doesn't that go affect them?
Absolutely. I mean, I have been in courts like eviction court, for example, where I'm representing my client, and because it is a court call when everybody's on the Zoom, right? Like we discussed earlier, I've seen judges who have, you know, handled self-represented litigants very patiently, carefully, and sensitively. And that's the one thing that is needed is you need good judges who are able to do that effectively with self-rep because we do have more and more self-represented litigants. It's very difficult for a self-represented litigant to, you know, be able to navigate the court legal process, especially like an eviction court. Um, you know, or probate, it's almost impossible because it's just so rules driven in probate. There's just rules that you've got to follow. And it can be complicated, right? We're talking about the laws of intestate succession, right? How the heirs, how property passes through the heirs if you don't have a will. The everyday person doesn't understand that. Half the time I got to look it up, you know what I mean, and go back and do it. I've been doing this for years. So it's very difficult, but I think that's where it takes really good judges who have what I call lived experiences. Someone like me who's been doing it for so long, who's helped so many different people from all different walks of life. I've been through it. So I think for those reasons, even alone, it will be, I will be able to be very helpful on the bench, right? I haven't spent my time to being what they call an ambulance chaser, making all this money, right? Into personal injury. I have spent my time helping people navigate a legal process, maybe in sometimes where they're in crisis, right? So I think I've seen judges whom I've been very impressed with on the bench because they've been so patient and so sensitive to those self-represented litigants. I've seen judges who haven't been. I was in court on a virtual hearing one time where there was self-represented litigants, and one lady was she was driving, she was on the call. The judge started yelling at her. Now I understood she shouldn't have been driving, but she just had no idea, even how to come on the call. And so he just started yelling. I just don't, I don't subscribe to that type of behavior from anyone, especially the judge. So I've seen though wonderful judges who I mean, the patience they have is just tremendous to me. And it's been so, I want to model the way that I behave as a judge after some of the judges that I've seen have just been lovely people. I don't see, one judge was starting out, and another judge that I'm thinking about, she was retiring, and she was just a lovely person, and the patience was something to see. So I mean, I think that is what we need, especially in this day and age, with everything going on, all of the stress that the outside world brings. And so when you can't hire an attorney, or you haven't found one yet, and you have to be in court yourself, it's very important to have really good judges who are compassionate and sensitive to those needs.
When judges, let's say after you get elected and then you start working, do you get any training, or are you just assigned traffic court and you learn the ropes over there?
There is some training that is provided, as I understand it, and then you do go into traffic court very soon thereafter. But the Illinois Judicial Council is, a group, an entity for judges who are on the bench, and I do know they provide training, like every once a quarter, every 6 months, annually. So there's constant, consistent training and um, opportunities for you to connect with your colleagues to get some help and understanding of how to navigate yourself from the bench, right? So, and with over 500 other judges, I think we can talk to somebody, right? But no, there is some training initially, and then you go into traffic to get used to sitting on that bench and wearing the robe and sort of being the boss and the person in charge.
What about that training that you mentioned every quarter? So judges do get some more training every quarter to be updated with.
I think there is an opportunity. I don't know that that is forced or required, but I think that there's an opportunity for judges to come together and receive some additional help and input, right? And refining of their, and it just may boil down to how do we handle this, self-represented litigant in this situation. It may be that kind of thing. Just some reminders, right, of what to do, and that, and then I don't know that it's required. I think it's just more of an opportunity. It's out there and it's accessible.
So when you're on the ballot, who in this area will see your name on the ballot? Because I know
So
the
I'm going to name the cities for sure. I'm running in the 17th Subcircuit, which includes the lower part of the 7th Ward in the city of Chicago, all of the 10th Ward in the city of Chicago, in the southeast part of the Southlands, which includes Burnham, the village of Burnham, Calumet City, Dalton, East Hazel Crest, East Fort Heights, Homewood, east of Western, Lansing. I'm doing them in alphabetical order. Lansing, Olive Linwood, Markham, east of Western, Phoenix, Olive Sauk Village, Thornton, and Stager.
Awesome. If our listeners want to learn more about you, Meredith Hammer, where should they go?
So they want to go to my website. It's www.meredithhammer4judge.com. And Meredith is spelled Meridth, Hammer, HAMMER, Judge, JUDGE.com. I say remember it's hammer time.
All right, Meredith Hammer, running for a circuit court, Cook County Circuit Court judge for the 17th Subcircuit. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the information.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.